Everybody to This Week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. I'm the founder and the president of the Diversity Networking Group. And for those of you who don't know what the Diversity Networking Group is, I want to welcome you to our broadcast. The Diversity Networking Group is all about business, and it's all about you as the business owner. What we really believe in is we believe in that we can build a great CEO. And if we can build a great CEO, then guess what? We don't have to worry about the referrals because you can go out and find them yourself. And so one of the things that we actually do is we produce this show, This Week on DNG Radio. And it's produced by the City FM. So if you'd like any more information about the radio show or our broadcast, I'd like you to go over to www.thecityfm.com and find out a little bit more information on that. Or if you'd like to know anything more about the Diversity Networking Group, I appreciate it. Come on over to Diversity Networking Group, www.diversitynetworkinggroup.com, and that's just with one G. Hey, we want to welcome everybody who's come to the show today, and we're going to today is like the day after the election, and we're going to talk about the election today. So if you're on the webcam today, you're going to. If I look a little bit disheveled, it's because I was up tossing and turning all night long last night as a result of the election. And it's for no other reason than this, folks. As a business owner, I've got a certain, I've got some things that I'd like to see happen as far as business-wise in America. And it just hasn't been happening the last couple of months, or actually the last couple of years. And so, that's just kind of one of the things that's just kind of been weighing heavy on our minds. The battle lines were drawn a few years ago with Barack Obama, who's our current president. And for those of you who have been sleeping under a rock, President Barack Obama, by a 50 to 48% margin, as a matter of fact, he got 59 million votes, 398 to Mitt Romney's. I think Mitt Romney got, 56 million votes. So it was 50 to 48% votes that were cast, and the president regained the presidency. And so many of us out there were rooting for either Barack Obama or Mitt Romney. And the reason why is because, we're very pro-business people here in Las Vegas. We've been hit really hard by the economic downturn that happened a few years ago. And, we want to see this place bounce back. My wife Linda and I have actually been a part of the Las Vegas Valley for, well over 40 some odd years. We moved here in the early 60s. And, we've been watching this valley kind of grow up and grow down. But in the last 4 years, it has really taken the biggest dump that there's been. And so we were kind of looking for a big change here in the valley also. And but Las Vegas is really more of a what they call a blue state. And so if you don't know the difference between blue and red states, excuse me, a blue state would be more Democrat, and a red state would be more Republican, and a purple state, of course, would probably be a little evenly matched. But even though we've had a major economic downturn here in the Las Vegas Valley, we still, as a state, voted for Barack Obama. As a matter of fact, they said 52% of Nevadans voted for Barack Obama, and 46% voted for Mitt Romney. Now, you've got to understand this. And we're going to talk just a little bit about this, and then we're going to get into some local politics and how it really affects you as a business owner. But you've got to understand this. We live in which is arguably in the top 5 hardest hit states as far as foreclosures go. Excuse me. As far as foreclosures go, and we were tops up until just about a week ago, but we are probably number 1 in the nation as far as unemployment goes, and that's a big turnaround. We were the number 1 state for growth. We had people coming into this town, 6,000 a month, and 4,500 of those people were staying here. And that started in 1995, or actually started a little earlier than that, when we saw this economic boom. As a matter of fact, Carrot Top, the comedian, was noted as saying in his monologue. They said, "Well, what's the state bird of Nevada?" That's right. It was the tower crane. That's right, the tower crane. You know, it sits on the side of a building and it picks things up and loads them on the building. He said that there was always, they had these pylons, there was orange pylons all over the place. Well, see, that was a great sign for Las Vegas because we were growing. I've been all over the country, and one of the things that I keep seeing around the country is stagnation. Places that have not grown in literally years. But in Las Vegas, that doesn't happen in Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, it is growing. It's always been growing. So starting in the early 90s, we saw this growth in Las Vegas that was just unprecedented. As a matter of fact, I became a union electrician, and when I became a union electrician, they asked me, they said, "Hey, do you have any family members who would like to be electricians also? We'll hire them right now because we need bodies. We need people out there to man this work." So from 1995 to 2000, actually 2009, I never missed one day. Well, I shouldn't say that. I had one dry spell during the late 90s, where things slowed down just a little bit. But other than that, that was pretty much it. Worked solidly, and then in 2009 we saw the major dumping happening in the building industry, housing, all those things started going downhill. So Las Vegas has been hard hit, folks. In comes President Obama on a wave of dissatisfaction with the people here in the United States. They said, "We want change." He said, "I'll give you change." He said, "I will reduce your deficit. I'll reduce your this. I'll make the sky turn blue. I'll do all these great things, and then on top of it all, I'll walk on water." And wouldn't you know it, 4 years later, he's added to the debt $5 trillion. He's amassed a debt that all of the other combined presidents from the beginning of time had not amassed a debt that this man did in 4 years. And yet the American people said, "You know what? Let's give him 4 more years." So last night, that's exactly what happened. You know, even all the pundits and everything said, "Hey, you know what? We still think that Mitt Romney is going to run away with this," because Mitt Romney is a whole different animal. He's a corporate guy. He's got the pointy shoulders. You know, he's got the suit. He's got the gray hair. He's 6 foot something. He's just, you know, he's a corporate exec guy. He turned around the Olympics. He worked for Bain Capital, and he did some amazing things. He was a governor of a state that did some great things. And so he has a track record of being able to turn around an economy that President Obama didn't have. You see, President Obama came in with a track record of nothing. I mean, he had never done anything. He had been a community organizer in Chicago. Well, no, he did. He actually was the president of his law review over in Harvard. But other than that, that was pretty much all he did. But when people looked at the policies that President Obama had put into place, they said, "You know what? We think that we're going to give him 4 more years to see if he can really fully implement all this stuff. And after that period of time, we'll see if things turn out." Well, I'll tell you, folks, we've seen a lot of things that have happened in the first almost 4 years. And as a country, we need to begin to look at some things internally that we're doing wrong that maybe are contributing to our demise. Because one man does not a country make. He's just the head of the ticket. He is not the people. See, one thing that a person, and I'll end with this for this first segment. One thing a lady told me from Neiman Marcus, she said, "You know what? If we will stop treating our elected officials as God and start getting at the business of making money and doing the things that we do, then we will see a better country." And I really appreciate her saying that, because really I'd fallen into that trap myself, thinking that my elected officials were the ones who were getting up every morning to do my work for me. Like President Obama said, he said, "You didn't make that. If you've got a popular business, if you've got a successful business, you didn't do that." Well, President Obama, I did do that. I have built the things that I've built, and God willing, in the next 4 years, I'm going to do even more. Stay tuned, folks, for our next segment. This is this week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. In the next segment, we're going to talk local politics. We're going to find out what's been going on, and we will be back in just a minute. Stay tuned. All right, folks, and welcome back. I'm telling you, most of you folks who are on the webcam, who've been a part of the show for any length of time, are thinking, "Man, that was a quick break." Well, folks, I'll tell you, our technician here today, the producer and the owner of the City FM, Million Quinteras, is been doing just an awesome job today, and so we're moving right along. In our last segment, we talked a little bit about the national race for president, where President Barack Obama, as we talked about before, has been reelected by the people of the United States in a 50 to 48, and that was the latest count, and that's not even counting in Florida yet, folks. I don't think Florida is going to be counted for quite a while, but President Obama has been reelected in convincing fashion over Mitt Romney. But let's look at some local races. I want to thank folks. I want to thank you folks for being part of the show. And just to let you know, this show is produced by the Diversity Networking Group. If you'd like some more information about Sherman Ray or the Diversity Networking Group, I'd appreciate you just going to www.diversitynetworkinggroup.com, and you can find out more information about it. Remember, at Diversity Networking Group, we build CEOs. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about a training that we started just a couple of months ago, and it's called the EDGE training. At the EDGE training, what we're doing is we're supercharging business owners, helping them move into a realm, into a level that they've never been a part of before. We actually have those EDGE trainings on Tuesday nights. We did not have it last night because of the election, but normally we have them on Tuesday nights at 6:45 over at Desert Shores at the Lakeside Business Suites. That's at 2620 Regatta Drive, Suite 101. That's the EDGE training. It's just awesome. This month we're actually doing speaker training, so which means you can learn how to become a better speaker. And you can, gosh, it's really helped me out tremendously on developing some great things as far as my speaking habits go. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about local politics here in Las Vegas. In local politics, we had some great races. One that was really very interesting, people really wanted to know about, was the race with Shelley Berkeley and, gosh, what's the guy's name? Dean Heller. So Shelley Berkeley and Dean Heller fought it out, and Dean Heller won. Many of you probably remember what happened with Shelley Berkeley. She had been embroiled in some shenanigans and some chicanery, and I won't say the other word, chicanery, shenanigans. But they were for the U.S. Senate seat, and Shelley Berkeley, who has been our person here, I think she's been a congressperson here for many, many years, wanted to step up and become a part of the U.S. Senate. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Dean Heller has been serving for many, many years, and he's from up in the Reno area, so his whole constituency was really in northern Nevada, and they were saying, you know what, if as long as he can hold off Shelley Berkeley and maybe lose down here in the south end of the state by a couple of percentage points, that he could actually win, and evidently that's what worked out really well for him. So we want to congratulate Dean Heller for his win. We also had Dina Titus. Dina Titus actually beat the Republican that she was racing against, Christopher Edwards, and she beat him for the other U.S. Senate district. That was District 1, or excuse me, U.S. House, and she won in that one. And so Dina Titus has been around a long time. She's a Democrat. She's been around many, many years. And has become a fixture, and she's it's funny because I think Dina Titus came from Louisiana or Texas or something like that. She got a very Texas twang, and she came into the Valley and started running for office, and she has become now in District 1. She's in the House over there. Who else we've got? We've got some interesting races. For those of you who wanted to see Danny Tarkanian as running, he and Stephen Horsford, they ran against each other, and Danny Tarkanian got spanked. So it's unfortunate, but I think what had happened to him is his financial woes really caught up with him. In the last months of the election, it was disclosed that Danny Tarkanian was going to file bankruptcy. He had like a $17 million settlement that he had to settle with one of the mortgage holders on a business or a house or whatever he had. And people really don't like that. I mean, they just don't. And even though Danny has been around a long time, as a matter of fact, his dad, Jerry Tarkanian, who was the beloved coach of the Running Rebels here for many, many years, and Danny played for him also. So Danny's he's a hometown boy, but he has run for office. I can't tell you how many times. Since I've been a kid, Danny Tarkanian's been running for office, and he's lost every single time. And he ran against Stephen Horsford. No, we love him. We do. We love the guy. But Danny, probably, maybe next year, so maybe he's in his 50s. He's a young guy. He can still win at some point, but it's, he just needs to start working on getting everything together early. U.S. House District 3, that was the race against John Oseguera and Joe Heck, Dr. Joe Heck. Dr. Joe Heck prevailed in that. And so in the House District 3, Joe Heck is the winner, which is great. There was an interesting race with a friend of mine who I've been trying to get a hold of for quite a while now, and I can't tell you the truth. I'm thinking she's in the State Assembly, Assembly District 4, and that's Michelle Fiore. Michelle Fiore has actually won a seat. She's been I've been trying to get her to be a part of the diversity networking group for quite a while now. Many of you know that what we do is we bring in speakers that can really add some value to our business owners, because that's really what it's all about. It's all about bringing in some value to our business owners, help them position themselves based upon what our politicians might tell us, and say, hey guys, like we've had speakers like Steve Ross, and we've had Ricky Barlow come in. We've had who's now district attorney, but at the time he was a city councilman, Steve Wolfson came in and spoke at the diversity networking group. And what they were able to tell us was just pivotal in some of our business owners. As a matter of fact, they all really said the growth in Las Vegas is going to happen downtown. And we all know that Zappos moved their headquarters from Henderson to the old City Hall building, which is over off of Carson Street, I believe, and on Las Vegas Boulevard. And Tony Hsieh, the president of Zappos, just basically has been doing everything he can to bring people down. And so so all of the politicians that have spoken to us have all said the same thing. If you're going to invest some money, come to the downtown area, because that's where everything's going to be growing. Tony Hsieh is pumping in like $900 million to do something to make a walkway and that kind of stuff. So, it should be very interesting in the future. And that's what we try to do in the diversity networking group, is we try to bring as many people in as we can to tell us about that. I want to, if you're just tuning in right now and you're just watching via the webcam, I want to welcome you to the This Week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. And we've been talking a little bit about the local races that have been happening here in Las Vegas. It's been a seesaw battle for months and months and months. For those of you who know about Nevada, we are a battleground state. So we've had more money spent on advertising here in Las Vegas than you can shake a stick at. As a matter of fact, we've probably boosted our economy by at least 10% because of all of the advertising that has come on to our TVs. But at the end of the day, President Barack Obama has been reelected as president, and we've been kind of going through the list of other people that have been elected to a local office here, and we'll go through a few more of them as the show progresses. In our next segment, as a matter of fact, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of events that are going to be coming up, and one of those events that's going to happen next week is the Las Vegas Tea Fest. And many of you will want to know what that is all about. It's the first time it's happening here in Nevada, and it's a festival about tea. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in our next segment. We'll also talk about the Rock and Roll Las Vegas Marathon, which yours truly will be running in. If you can see, many of you are probably looking and going, man, that guy looks so much different. Well, it's because I've been growing my hair out. It's kind of like my tradition before I get into the rough in the game. And so that's why I have all this hair on my face, for those of you who can see in the webcam. Right after the race is over with, I'll be shaving it all off and I'll be purdy again, purdy and bald. But we'll get into that in our next segment. Stay tuned, folks. We got a lot more in our final segment. This is This Week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray, and we will be back in just a moment.
Final segment, 10 minutes.
All right, folks, and welcome back once again to This Week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. I'm the founder and the president of the Diversity Networking Group. Well, we've been talking in our last couple of segments about some local races that have been happening here in Las Vegas. Many of you remember what we talked about before. We talked about, President Barack Obama, who, after months and months and months of battling with Mitt Romney, who is the hope of the hope of all Republicans nationwide, they battled it down to the wire yesterday. As a matter of fact, I got a call from one of my buddies who is not a pollster, but he actually went around door to door with people to get out the vote, and he said, let's go down to the Palazzo so we can go celebrate. Well, I was with a client most of the night last night, and so I was not able to do that, but I listened on the radio as I was working with this client and was working on their project. And as I kept hearing the returns come in more and more and more, there was kind of an eerie thought that came to the back of my mind. I said to myself, Mitt Romney's going to lose. I can see it already. I can see the handwriting on the walls. Even though they showed I could hear them talking about some of the earlier election results, and Mitt Romney was ahead. The way that the pundits and the way the CBS radio was reporting this, they basically said it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And literally by a little after 8 o'clock, which was 15 minutes, they said, after 15 minutes longer than it took them to declare Barack Obama the winner 4 years ago when he beat John McCain, they made the announcement again. Barack Obama is reelected President of the United States. And, as we talked about in the first segment, we were talking about that Nevada, not only Nevada, but the country has been going through some major, major upheavals. And it's kind of shocking, and it's been a shock to a lot of people, that the president is actually, that this was even close. For those of you who've been keeping track of what's been going on economically here specifically in the state of Nevada, we've been going through some of the worst economic times that there's been. Because I get to work with business owners every week, I've got a pretty good feel for where business is in Nevada. And nobody's very happy. There's so much red tape. There's so many things that you have to go through. Now there are businesses that are still growing. The property taxes, or excuse me, the real estate values have gone up 11%, and they've steadily been going up. But you know, it is not like it was, and like we talked about in the first segment, like it was from '95 to 2009, where we had this just crazy growth here in the valley. We've been clipping along at about 2%, probably a little less than 2%. And that's a far cry than what it was back in the Bush days or in the Reagan era. In Reagan era, the growth was around 7%. It dropped off significantly by the time Clinton got out of office. And then by the time Bush, number 2, got in office, growth was back up to around 6%. Once he left office, growth started declining, and now we are at a snail's pace. I think at the one time we were the lowest, we were a little over 1.5%. Now we're a little over 2, we're close to 2% growth. And the American people said, you know what, we think we want a little bit more of this. We think we want a little bit more of the same old thing. Now this is a business show, folks, and we're going to stick specifically to business, and we're not going to talk about any of the moral, aspects of what the president has done. But if you look at it just from a strictly business basis, President Obama's got a little ways to go, and he really does. And maybe what he needs to do is he needs to bring around himself people who are more pro-business. I know that they, as far as the Democrats go, they believe in a bottom-up type of thought process as far as bringing business in. But as I was telling a client a couple of days ago, I said, you know what? I've never worked for a poor person. A poor person has never hired me to do a job for them. And so the mentality that they're trying to foster here, it just doesn't work. I know they're talking about growing the middle class, but the middle class will never grow unless somebody starts spending some money. And the only way people are going to spend some money is if you allow them to keep their money. I'm a business person, folks, and the thing that I will do is I will hire more people if I know I've got jobs coming around the corner. And the only way I know that jobs are going to be coming around the corner is if people who have the jobs have the money in their pocket to spend on those jobs. And if they don't have this money to spend on those jobs, they are never going to call them. And so that's why the top-down economic theory works. That's why trickle-down economics, if you want to put it that way, works. Because the people at the top, no matter what they spend their money on, everybody prospers as a result of it. Because rich people are just that way. They want to spend their money. That's why they became rich. Either they will give it away or they'll spend it. They'll give it away on great causes or they'll spend it on stupid causes. It doesn't matter, but people will spend their money. There was a thought that went through that they said, well, you know what, these millionaires and these billionaires, they're going to be spending their money on airplanes and luxury yachts and everything else. Well, bless their hearts, let them do that, because guess who is going to build that plane? Guess who's going to make that perfume? Guess who's going to, make those shoes? People are going to be employed as a result of these people doing this. There's a show that's on right now, and it's called the Men, or I think it's actually it was a series, and now it's probably over. It's called The Men Who Built America. We're talking about the Vanderbilts, and we're talking about the Heinz, and the Carnegies, and everything else. One of the things that they did is they competed with each other to see who was the richest person there is. And one of the things, the byproduct of this endeavor for these men who wanted to become very rich, is they bought a lot of things. They built a lot of things. Some of them lavish, yes. Some of them stupid, yes. Okay, but a lot of times what these guys did as an overflow is that they were able to hire a lot of people to do the things that they wanted to do, and that drives a society. Okay, people have got to spend money on something. Okay, you might call stupid buying an airplane, whereas somebody in a third world country calls your car that you buy, your Toyota, your Honda, your Ford, they call that stupid. So, everybody wins. Well, anyways, so for the next 4 years, folks, we can look forward to hopefully no more gridlock in Washington, D.C. I'm at least here locally, we've got some good folks who've, and we've kind of gone through the litany of people who ran for office. If you'd like a list of the people who've actually won the races, just go to the Las Vegas Review-Journal website, and they've actually got that listed on there. You'll see some great people that have won races. Republicans and Democrats. We'd like to invite you folks. We've only got a couple weeks left for you to actually know about some trainings that we've got coming up. One is the EDGE training. We were talking about this before. The EDGE training is all about becoming a better CEO. And so we want to encourage you to go to the www.diversity networking group site. That's just with one G. Find out about the EDGE training. And so I want to invite you to do that. We'd also like to tell you about the Las Vegas Rock and Roll Marathon that I will be in, and that is on December 2nd. And I'm looking really forward to that. If you would like to sponsor me in that, we've actually got just a limited amount of space left on the shirt. And so I want to invite you to come by, go to the Diversity Networking Group, send me a note and say, hey Sherman, I'd like to have my logo on your shirt. I'll give you some information about that, and you can be a part of that. Also, we'd like to tell you about one of our sponsors that is a part of the show. And that is Avery's Coffee. That's coming in 2013, folks. We are so excited about that. Avery's Coffee Gourmet Roast. Folks, it's going to be one of the greatest things that's hit Las Vegas. As a matter of fact, we'll be talking to a prospective or a location where we might be having that at just in the next couple of days or so. So I just want to invite you to do that. Also, next week we will be back on This Week on DNG Radio. We'll actually have a special guest who will be talking about their business, and we're just excited about that. One last thing, folks, if you're ever in town and you're looking to go to a great networking group, I want to invite you to come over to the Diversity Networking Group. We meet at several locations around town, and you can be a part of the Diversity Networking Group. Once again, just go to www.diversitynetworkinggroup.com, and you can find out more information about that. And remember, that's diversitynetworkinggroup.com, and that's just with one G. Hey, I want to thank you for being a part of This Week on DNG Radio. I'm your host, Sherman Ray, the founder and the president of the Diversity Networking Group. We're looking forward to seeing you again next week, the same bat time, the same bat channel, 10:30 on Wednesdays for This Week on DNG Radio. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye-bye.